Hey man, sit here with me because I need to tell you how it all started. My name is Luca. Yeah, Luca Italian to the bone. And this happened back in 2018 when I lived in Turin up in northern Italy. A hardcore atheist, the type who grew up arguing on internet forums and laughing at anyone who talked about God. I had a degree in mechanical engineering from the Politecnico, worked at a car factory, made good money, went out every night in the Quadrilatero Romano district, drank Negroni like it was water, and thought that was the so-called good life. Jesus, to me? A recycled myth, a psychological crutch. Faith? A waste of time. Miracles? Only existed in Hollywood movies. Every single day I woke up with a weight on my chest that not even an espresso could shake off. I had a nice apartment with a view of the Alps, tons of friends, women all the time, but when I shut the door at night, man, that painful emptiness. I'd post stories laughing, traveling to Capri, the Amalfi Coast, but inside it felt like I was running out of oxygen. I filled that hole with sarcasm, endless debates on Italian Reddit, mocking anything sacred. I even went into the Basilica di Superga just to take an ironic picture and post. Look at the fairy tale they invented here. The truth is, I was terrified of dying. Terrified. When the subject came up in conversations, I'd change it immediately, crack a joke, but alone, man, my heart would pound. I kept repeating to myself, after death it's just darkness, lights out, and that's it. But my body didn't believe that at all. It was like part of me knew that this life with no purpose was killing me slowly, and I kept running from it by stuffing my schedule so full that I didn't have a minute left to think. One cold November night, after yet another stupid argument in an atheist Telegram group, I stormed out of a bar furious. It was pouring in Turin, that icy downpour that rolls down from the Alps and turns the cobblestone streets into rivers. I was walking back to the Vanciglia neighborhood, hood-soaked, headphones in, crossing the train tracks near Porta Nuova station. I passed there almost every day. I knew every centimeter. I just wanted to get home, take a hot shower, and forget that the abyss was swallowing me alive. And it was right there, with my phone in my hand answering a meme, that I heard the whistle. Still far, but coming way too fast. I lifted my head, and the headlight of that freight train was already on top of me. I didn't even have time to drop my phone. I felt the ground shake, the wind from that steel giant hitting me hard, and an absolute certainty pierced my chest. It's over, Luca. This time it's all over. I felt the impact before it even happened. You know that split second when your brain realizes there's no way out? My whole body froze. The headlight blinded me, the whistle ripped through my ears, and all I could think was, this is it. It's over. No time to scream, no time to run, no time to pray. I didn't even know how to pray. Suddenly, a force yanked me backwards so hard my feet left the ground. It wasn't a human shove, no way. It was like two invisible hands, unbelievably strong, grabbed my chest and pulled me off the tracks. I flew, literally flew about 10 feet back and landed on my back on the wet gravel. At that exact second, the train roared past where I had been standing. The wind pushed my hair forward, the noise was deafening, and I smelled hot metal burning the air. But what no one will ever be able to explain is what I saw while I was being pulled back. In the middle of that blinding white light, a man appeared. Tall, wearing a white robe that glowed like it had its own light, long hair, beard, and the eyes, man. Those eyes full of peace and authority at the same time. He didn't speak with his mouth, but I heard it inside my head, clear as if he were shouting, "It's not your time yet, Luca." And he pulled me. It was him. I know it was Jesus. I was lying there on the ground, gasping, my heart pounding so hard I thought it would explode. The whole train had already passed, the cars rattling, the red lights disappearing around the bend. The rain was hitting my face, mixed with tears I didn't even notice were falling. I looked around for that man in white, nothing. Just empty tracks, wet gravel, and two perfect barefoot footprints pressed right beside me, like someone had been standing there, watching me. I got up shaking, legs weak, and started walking in circles without knowing what to do. I yelled into the air, "Who are you? Show yourself." But only the sound of the rain answered. In that moment, the rational atheist in me tried to scream louder. It was a hallucination, Luca. Adrenaline. You tripped and fell back at the perfect moment. But I knew it wasn't. I felt the presence. I felt that deliverance on my skin. And for the first time in my life, the emptiness in my chest was replaced by something I didn't even know how to name. Warm, alive, real. If you've ever felt something science can't explain, drop it in the comments right now, because I need to know I'm not crazy. I stayed there in the rain for minutes that felt like hours, staring at those barefoot prints in the gravel, and one single phrase kept echoing in my head. Jesus? Was it really Jesus? I was still there, on my knees on the gravel, rain hitting my face, when I heard the train brakes screeching further ahead. The train stopped about 400 meters after the curve, red lights flashing, doors opening. A man jumped out running, flashlight in hand, shouting in Italian. C'è qualcuno? Dio mio, ho preso un ragazzo. Is anyone there? My God, I hit a guy. He ran toward me, pale face, wide eyes, sweating even in the cold. When he saw me standing, whole, not a scratch, he froze like he hit an invisible wall. The flashlight slipped out of his hand. Mama, tu sei morto, io ti ho visto. But you were dead. I saw you. I tried to explain, stuttering, that someone pulled me back, that I flew backward, but he wouldn't listen. He kept repeating, almost crying. Io ti ho visto sui binari. Il ferro ti ha illuminato intero. Non c'è stato tempo. I saw you on the tracks. The headlight lit you up completely. There was no time. He swore up and down that the train had hit me head-on, that he felt the impact in the cabin, that he closed his eyes expecting the worst. Then came the part that still gives me chills just thinking about it. They searched the entire track with flashlights, police, firefighters, even the railway maintenance crew. They looked for pieces of clothing, blood, shoes, phone, nothing. Not even a strand of my hair. Just the 2 barefoot footprints on the wet gravel, perfect, like someone had been standing right there beside me, watching the train go by. The engineer, poor guy, almost had a breakdown. He kept repeating, Un miracolo, è stato un miracolo. I, who just hours earlier was mocking anything supernatural, could only nod and mumble. Yeah, it really was a miracle. In that moment, I felt God's presence so strongly it was like the air was heavier, more alive. The deliverance was so undeniable that even a stranger who had never opened a Bible in his life recognized it instantly. I walked home that night feeling like I was floating. The rain suddenly stopped, the clouds opened, and a beam of moonlight fell right onto the tracks, lighting up those barefoot prints. I stopped, looked up at the sky, and for the first time in my life, I talked to him. It wasn't a memorized prayer, just a broken whisper. If you're real, thank you. And show me what to do now. The transformation had already begun right there, brother, without me realizing it. The arrogant atheist was dying, and something new was being born in his place. But the most incredible part was still waiting for me when I got home and opened my phone. Stay with me, because what happened in the following hours made my heart understand that deliverance wasn't just to keep me alive. It was to make me be born again. I got home in Vanciglia around 3 in the morning, soaked, shivering from the cold, and from something else I didn't yet know how to name. I threw my keys on the table, sat on the living room floor, and just collapsed. I cried like a kid who lost his mom in the supermarket. I cried because I had almost died. I cried because I had been saved. I cried because I didn't understand anything. But for the first time in my life, I felt like someone truly loved me. I opened my phone with still trembling hands. There were dozens of messages from friends asking where I was, why I had disappeared from the group. But one notification made my heart stop. A video someone had recorded from the window of the building across the street, exactly at the moment of the accident. The train passing, the headlight lighting everything up, and me. I appear standing there in the middle of the tracks, and suddenly I'm pulled backward at an impossible speed. In the video you can see a kind of white flash, too fast for the camera to capture clearly, and then just me lying on the gravel, unharmed. The guy who posted it wrote, Miracolo a Torino, guarda questo ragazzo. In just a few hours it already had thousands of views. I watched it about 50 times. Paused frame by frame, zoomed in, tried to find a rational explanation. Nothing. The physicist inside me wanted to scream optical illusion, but my heart had already surrendered. I fell to my knees right there on the cold floor and said out loud, with a voice hoarse from crying so much, Jesus, if it was really you, forgive me for everything I said, for everything I did. I don't even know where to start, but I want to know you. In that instant, a peace I had never felt in my entire life came over me. It was like someone had placed a hand on my shoulder and said, Now you're home, Luca. The fear of death disappeared. The emptiness disappeared. The anguish that had followed me since I was a teenager evaporated. I felt God's presence as real as I feel the sun on my skin on a summer day. And then I understood. That deliverance on the tracks wasn't luck. It wasn't chance. It had been a calling. For the first time in years, I slept without nightmares, without waking up at 4 in the morning with my chest tight. I woke up the next day with a crazy urge to open the Bible my grandmother had left on the shelf collecting dust. I didn't even know where to begin, so I opened it randomly, and it fell exactly on John 11 verses 25 to 26. I am the resurrection and the life. Whoever believes in me, though he may die, shall live. I started laughing and crying at the same time, because that was exactly what had happened to me the night before. I had died there on the tracks, but I was reborn. The change in my life was already happening, brother, and it hadn't even been 24 hours. But the most beautiful part was still coming. People started looking for me, wanting to know what had happened, and I discovered that my miracle wasn't just for me. The next day, I had barely stepped outside my house, and I was already a different person. Unshaven, eyes still red from crying all night, but inside my chest a flame that wouldn't go out. I needed to tell someone, anyone. I started with the building's doorman, Mr. Mario, a 70-year-old Neapolitan who drank coffee in the lobby every morning. When I told him, he made the sign of the cross 3 times, hugged me tight, and yelled to his wife upstairs, "Rita, vieni. A il ragazzo e risorto." In less than 2 hours, the video was in every WhatsApp group in Turin. People I didn't even know started knocking on my door. A mother with a sick child in her arms, a guy who had lost his job, an elderly lady who said she prayed for me without even knowing my name. I wasn't a pastor, I wasn't a priest, I didn't understand anything about the Bible yet, but people felt that something real had happened to me and they wanted a piece of that hope. I started telling the story without embellishment, without decoration. I was an atheist, I mocked Jesus, I almost died, and he pulled me off the tracks. It was real. It was him. And people cried. They cried a lot. I saw the same emptiness in their eyes that I carried before, and when I talked about the deliverance, it was like a spark lit up inside them. A young man, Matteo, showed up drunk at 4 in the afternoon, saying he was going to kill himself that night. I just hugged him and said, I was going to die yesterday too, but Jesus didn't let me, and he's not going to let you either. He fell to the floor crying, surrendered right there in my living room, and today he's been clean for 5 years. Within a week, my house had become a prayer point. 20, 30 people came every night. I read the Bible stumbling over the words, but the Holy Spirit did the rest. I saw healings, tears, people being baptized in the bathtub because they couldn't wait for church. I saw transformation happening right in front of my eyes, and all I could think was, God used the biggest atheist in Turin to show that nobody is too far for him to reach. And then, brother, answer me honestly here in the comments. Have you ever felt Jesus pull you when no one else saw danger? Have you ever had a day when you thought it was the end, but discovered it was just the beginning? Tell me down below, because I read every story and pray for each one. Your pain also has a place here, because what happened after that, man, even I couldn't believe it. The video reached Italian television, newspapers around the world were asking for interviews, and I kept thinking one thing. God didn't just save my life. He saved it to use my mouth. A week after the deliverance, I was already the train guy, all over Italy. RAI, Mediaset, BBC. Even a Japanese channel sent a reporter to Turin. My phone wouldn't stop. 300 messages per hour, book deals, invitations to talk shows. A famous producer offering me 80,000 euros just so I would tell the story with a little more drama. A newspaper even made up that I had died clinically for 4 minutes. I read that and laughed nervously because I knew the truth. I hadn't died for a single second. Jesus simply didn't allow it. Then came the real temptation. A big agency from Milan called me for a meeting. Glass room, view of the Duomo di Milano, 3 guys in expensive suits in front of me. Luca, we can turn you into the biggest religious phenomenon in Europe. Tour, Netflix documentary, a clothing line with the phrase pulled by him. You'll be a millionaire in a year. I could smell the money, the fame, the ego that still lived in here. For a few minutes, I almost said yes. Almost. That same night, alone in my apartment, I opened the Bible that no longer left my hands. It fell on Matthew 4 verses 8 to 10, when the devil takes Jesus to the top of the mountain and offers him all the kingdoms of the world in exchange for worship. I read that and started trembling. It was exactly what was happening to me. They offered me the world if I turned the miracle into a show. I fell to my knees and cried again, but this time out of fear of myself. I asked for forgiveness for almost trading God's presence for a spotlight. The next day I refused everything. I canceled interviews, turned off notifications, deleted Instagram for a while. I went back to the basics. Just me, the Bible, prayer, and the people who knocked on my door needing a hug and a living word. Because I understood something that changed everything. The deliverance wasn't to make me famous. It was to make me useful. The purpose wasn't the stage, it was my knees on the ground. The transformation wasn't for the camera, it was for the heart. And that's when Jesus began to do the most beautiful part of the work. He took out the proud, sarcastic, empty Luca and put in his place a broken man, full of scars but full of him. I started waking up early to pray, fasting without anyone telling me to, feeling the urge to forgive people I hated. The faith I mocked became the air I breathe. And the craziest part, the more I said no to fame, the more God opened doors money could never buy. The last piece of the puzzle came months later, when I returned to the tracks on a cold night, just me and him, to thank him again. And something happened that I will never forget for as long as I live. Almost a year after the accident, on a freezing November night, I went back to the same tracks near Porta Nuova station. Same light rain, same smell of wet iron, same silence that comes before trains. But this time I wasn't distracted, I wasn't running, I wasn't empty. I went on purpose. I brought only a small Bible in my coat pocket and a white candle a church sister had given me. I arrived at the exact spot where everything had happened. I knelt on the gravel, lit the candle, and started talking to him out loud, without shame of who might hear. I thanked him for the deliverance, for the transformation, for the faith that now burned inside me like a fire that doesn't go out. And then I asked the question I'd been carrying for months. Jesus, why did you really save me? I already understand it's not for fame, it's not for money, so why? The wind stopped suddenly. The rain slowed until it became just a light drizzle. And I felt him. I didn't see the man in white this time, but I felt God's presence so strongly that my whole body got chills. It was like the very air was hugging my chest. And then came the answer, not in words I heard with my ears, but inside my heart, clear as crystal. I saved you so you would tell it. To every atheist, to every desperate person, to everyone who thinks I don't exist or that I've forgotten them. Tell it, Luca. Tell it until the last day of your life. I cried right there, face to the ground, the candle trembling in my hand. Because I understood everything. That deliverance hadn't been just for me. It was for thousands, maybe millions, who would hear this story and remember that Jesus is still out there pulling people away from the front of the train. He still shows up when no one else believes. He still gives a new life to those who had already given up on everything. That day I made a pact right there on the tracks. Wherever I go, I'll tell it. In every corner of Italy, in every video, in every bar conversation, in every prison I enter, in every hospital. I'll tell that I was the biggest atheist in Turin and that Jesus pulled me with his own hands. I'll tell that miracles are real, deliverance happens, transformation is real, and his purpose is greater than any plan of ours. And today, looking back, I see that every detail of that night made sense. The barefoot footprints, the video, the train driver, the doors that opened, the ones that closed, everything was stitched together by him, so I could be here, talking to you now, saying with all the strength of my soul, Jesus is real. He is alive. And if he did this for me, he can do it for you. Have you ever felt him calling you in the middle of your own storm? Ever realized that maybe that accident that didn't happen, that door that closed, that illness that disappeared, maybe it wasn't just luck? Tell me in the comments. I want to pray for your miracle too. Because my story didn't end that night in Turin. It was only beginning.